cutting-edge technologies, aspects of system architecture, integration, interoperability, infrastructure design and planning, software engineering and development, life cycle processes, industry accepted best practices, information and network security, technical and system engineering, and extensive hands-on experiences in performing project management activities. This spans both in government and commercial endeavors. His past and current technical hands-on experience is in a wide range of technologies, which include Cisco, Meraki, Microsoft, Identity and Access Management, Eduroam, Juniper, Palo Alto, Voice over IP, Sync, SIP trunks, vulnerability tests, penetration tests, data center cooling, and enterprise hybrid solar solutions. Lloyd was instrumental in setting up the Uganda National Research and Educational Network, RENU, and is currently the chairman of the RENU's ICT Directors Forum since 2016. He's a frequent speaker and presenter at several international conferences, such as UbuntuNet, at the WSCREN, the Gantt TNC, the Internet 2 Global Regional Research and Educational Networks annual conferences, the most recent being held in Estonia, Norway, San Francisco, Botswana, and Madagascar. So with all this knowledge, Mr. Lloyd will be sharing his knowledge with us on managing trust, identity, and access. We'll be taking the questions in the chat as he presents, so I will deal them at the end. So feel free to put your questions in the chat so that they are addressed. Join me in welcoming Mr. Lloyd. Mr. Lloyd, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Alan Muhuza, the moderator. Thank you, Mr. John Chikubye, the CPA coordinator, for giving me an opportunity to share my experiences. I will share my screen in a minute. I'm hoping my screen is visible. So,
yes, it is, Lloyd.
Briefly, I work with several institutions, but mainly I work with research, data, and communication technologies based in the US, and I work in West Africa, here in East Africa, and Asia. And I manage several technologies, identity and access being one of those. Tonight, we shall be talking about the managing trust, identity, and access. And this is going to be mainly my experiences or trainings, what I've done in this. So I apologize if there's a bit of controversy from what the theory says. So this is the problem. Internet was designed to connect machine, not people. So because of this, it's a fight we cannot win with the same thinking that caused the problem. And like you know, none of us actually owns a digital identity. We simply rent identities from each of the websites or apps we use. But additionally, each organization we interact with store our personal information. So these silos are becoming a gold mine to hackers. And this is a problem to the people because it's frustrating mess of usernames and passwords, personal information scattered across the internet, identity theft from weak passwords, data breaches, and more. And our data is harvested and sold without our consent. And for organizations, it's an issue because trillions of USD in fraud-related expenses annually. Organizations are forced to become identity providers, security experts, Data breaches cause embarrassment and loss of trust. Greater security is equal to worse user experience. Compliance headaches like the GDPR and all those spread across the world. Billions of dollars in fines levied annually on organizations. And for devices, devices spy on us inside our homes, widespread device hacking, chain of trust problems, lack of accountability, and proprietary solutions are not interoperable. So expectations from today's sessions, we shall know the various layers of trust, identity, and access in an enterprise or organization. Understand the significance of IAM in establishing secure relationships, translations, and communications. Explore emerging technologies in managing access and identity. And we shall look at some examples of real-world use cases where federated identity management has been applied. So what is identity and access management? And I guess each of us here has their own definition, but I picked a simple one, which is a framework comprising of business processes, policies, and technologies that make it easier for organizations to manage electronic or digital identities.
Lloyd.
Yes, please.
Lloyd, I think people are complaining that you are a bit low.
Oh, sorry
So I
about
don't know
that.
how you can improve that.
Am I loud enough now?
It's better.
Okay, sorry about that. It's better here now?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So I said identity is a framework comprising of business processes, policies, and technologies that make it easier for organizations to manage electronic or digital identities. And identity and access management frameworks enable IT managers to control user access to critical information within their enterprises. So on the right is a diagram for IAM platform features where there is single sign-on, multi-factor authentication, privileged access, risk-based authentication, data governance, federated identity management, and zero trust access. For tonight, allow me dive deeper into the federated identity management and the single sign-on. Goals and objectives for IAM. Ensuring that legitimate users have the appropriate level of access to the right resources in the right context. Preventing unauthorized users from accessing resources by limiting access to specific groups and roles and verifying their identities. Monitoring user activities to detect unauthorized access. Preventing fraud committed by users who abuse their access privileges. Meeting various regulatory criteria for customer identification, suspicious activity detection, and identity theft prevention. How identity and access management works. So there are mainly two categories. Identity, which would be I would call the authentication, and I will explain that below. And there would be the access, which I would call the authorization. So under identity, which is the authentication, I would look at what you know. And this is the username, email address, passwords, passcode, passphrase, what you are, biometrics, fingerprint, voice, hand geometry, iris, and what you have like smart keys, smart cards, tokens, mobile device, phone number, and email accounts. And under authorization, we would have access control lists, role-based access controls, policies that assign a set of permissions to individual entities, including users, their roles, and groups, and attributed-based access controls, permissions based on the attributes associated with the request. So normally the best practices are limit privileged accounts, protect high-value assets, and automate workflows. So which are some of the tools for managing trust, identity, and access? Solution 1, use commercial social identities. Solution 2, build your own identity provider. Solution 3, build your own federation. And 4, use academic trust federations. And I will dwell a lot on much of that because I'm able to give very good real-world experiences. So solution 1, commercial identities. So the advantage is virtually every person on the planet has one of these accounts already, and many commercially available tools and APIs integrate with them. So the challenges, specific terms of use that conflict with privacy laws in many countries, no control over reuse of the identity and authentication data. Certain platforms are inaccessible in some countries or regions. Need to have a platform that links many different account providers. Many organizations have policies that require their staff to avoid using private identities and email for professional activities. So solution 2, build your own identity provider. It has its advantages. You control the password and account policies. Simplicity for your own developers. Challenges, management costs, identity proofing, MFA technology costs, infrastructure costs, tracking institutional changes. 3, build your own identity federation. And briefly, I will define what federated identity management is here, where institutions join together in a group, call it a federation, and agree to trust each other's identity credentials. It is kind of like when banks allow you to use your ATM card at the ATM of the bank where you do not have an account, if I can use that analogy. And the advantages of this: a clear legal framework, establish agreements between organizations for terms of use, code of conduct. But the challenges are scaling problems. Each collaboration may require new agreements, too many moving parts for each institution to maintain all the agreements with collaborating organizations. And the last one is use academic trust federations. Advantages: terms of use, privacy, codes of conduct, and security incident escalation framework, part of the trust federation networks. Technology and attributes released to service providers adhering to global research standards. Technology and attributes from identity providers adhering to global research. Community of technical and administrative support professionals at academic institutions. Challenges: not all institutions are members of federations, and not all scientists are at institutions that are members of federations. Not all federations have the same level of trust, and not all institutions are fully participating in research and scholarship agreements for release of identity attributes to collaborating tools. So I want to use a use case, and I'll dive in a little bit here for about 2 or 3 minutes. And I would like to look at how trust, identity, and access are managed at research and education networks globally. So I will define what is a national research and education network, why institutions connect to NRENs globally, services offered at national research and education networks, why we care about trust, identity, and access, and tools used. So what's a National Research and Education Network? It's a non-for-profit, high-performance, high-speed communications network owned and operated for and by the education and research community of the country. Here in Uganda, we have RENU, which is the Research and Education Network. Actually, I think some of you here are on this network unknowingly to you. It has 43 research institutions, 39 universities, 29 tertiary institutions, 9 hospitals, 183 schools, and 11 support institutions. And these are worldwide. So on the left, you can see the list on Africa. The one next to us here in Kenya is Kenneth, and the others you can see. Then there is Asia Pacific, Caribbean, Central Asia, Europe, Latin America, Middle East, North America. So all these national research and education networks are there. And on the right, it's the map. It's important to note that normally a country would have one national research and education network. In a few circumstances, like maybe in the US or about 2 or 3 countries where it is 2 or 3, but normally it's one. And coming back here, some of the services at the RENU, you would get the connectivity, the EduRoam, RENU Identity Federation. So I'll talk about that later in explaining trust and identity, cybersecurity, Moodle, LMS, SSL certificates, capacity building, EduVPN, anti-plagiarism, and several others. I could only just list some of these. So with the RENU Identity Federation, we have institutions that subscribe. I think they're about 15, the number on the left. And there are services that are consumed within the RENU Identity Federation. But each of these institutions each have their services. I didn't go into the depth of that. And I thought I would share with you the global map for all federations. And so far, 75 are in production, 8 at pilot stage, and 7 are in Africa, Uganda inclusive. So federated identity management. So this is a secure system for user authorization, authentication, and digital management. So when a user tries to access an application, he or she doesn't provide credentials to the service provider. This is very important to understand. Instead, the service provider trusts the identity provider to validate these credentials and authorize the user. Thus, the user never provides their credentials to anyone, but the IDP or the identity provider who securely stores and maintains their credentials. So this is the flow. So user logs into portal that uses federated identity. Then the application requests federated authentication. Server verifies the user's access and permissions. Server confirms the user's identity to the application, and the user accesses the application. So that's how the flow for federated identity works. And these are the core principles which I think are very important. So you basically authenticate locally, but authorized globally. Normally, trust is the key to broadening access and collaboration. Need to use a single ID for signing into multiple resources at multiple enterprises or domains globally. The identity has to be unique, traceable, and verifiable. There has to be a service provider. So you need a service to be consumed by the identity. And you need an identity that accesses the service. So these are core principles. But I need to give a difference between federated identity versus single sign-on because people tend to confuse the two. So these have one similarity. Both require a single set of credentials to grant user access to multiple applications or resources. Now there's a difference. So with federated identity, Users access applications or platforms across multiple organizations or domains that are part of the federated configuration is using single set of credentials. And with single sign-on, users can access multiple applications within the same organizations or domain using a single set of credentials. So, and the other difference is federated identity management supports single sign-on and extends single sign-on to multiple domains, whereas single sign-on is a function of federated identity management, and implementing it doesn't necessarily allow for federated identity management. So I will try to look at one use case. Many of you here, of course, you have gone through universities or colleges. So this is a live example. I think it happened to me this week. Someone sent me a request to download a paper on artificial intelligence on security threats. And this person gave me a link. So this applies to many people in the country here. So there were two options to access this paper from a library or journal online. So one option was to use the personal login, corporate login, or institutional login. The other option was to pay, buy or subscribe to journal. And like this is what many people use, like 80 or 90%. But because I have credentials that are federated with multiple institutions worldwide, I used my institutional login and I downloaded the paper for this person. And I've actually done this a lot, like I think for the last 10 years, because many institutions here have a problem of access to these online journals, not getting them for free. So another use case I would like to give is a bank use case where identity federation is used to allow existing customer to book a fixed deposit through a fintech mobile app. And like you can see from the flows, existing customer contacts the fintech app, then the fintech app forwards the token to the bank's federation server. Then another request goes to the bank's API. So there is back and forth traffic until when this request is successful. So going back to the core principles of federated identity, you realize that the customer is coming from one domain. The fintech app is a different domain. The bank's federation server could be a different domain, and the bank API could be a different domain. With just single sign-on, you wouldn't do this kind of flow. So another use case I would like to share is those who are interested in physics or gravitational wave research. So there was a breakthrough in 2016, but this breakthrough actually was predicted by Albert Einstein, the gravitational wave discovery. And this was a legal discovery named Science's 2016 Breakthrough of the Year. So the reason why it was a breakthrough of the year is not because of the science or the money that was spent, but this collaboration had over 1,300 collaborators at 112 institutions in 20 countries, accessing over 200 resources. They wouldn't have done this collaboration without the trust and identity services through the In-Common Federation for the USA, similar to the Renewable Identity Federation here in Uganda. So this was one of the first best use cases of the trust and identity kind of frameworks. And the people who are behind that have actually been here and trained some of us here in the country. Very good interaction. And the last one that I would like to talk about, which is going to be a huge consumer of this identity, is the square kilometer array known as the SKA. This will become the world's biggest radio telescope surveying the sky 10,000 times faster than ever before. So what's important is the dishes of the SKA will produce 10 times the global internet traffic. These dishes are built in remote areas of South Africa and Australia, like the previous project. So this is a multi-year project and a collaboration between 100 organizations across 20 countries. And it aims to begin observing the skies sometime in the mid-2020s. So how do you do all this without trust and identity? So this is another very good use case of where the trust and identity is being used. Challenges with this skill: very few skilled and trained personnel worldwide. Troubleshooting or resolving a problem can take a bit of time if something breaks. It's a little complex to understand the setup while starting. A lot of the software used is open source and the setup for various institutions differ. Thank you.
Thank you, Lloyd, for the session. I think we have a question in the chat, which asks about automation of identity access and management. I don't know what you can tell us about that. Then maybe you can also tell us more about its governance. How would it be governed in an institution, in different institutions?
So I think I start with governance. Maybe it's easier. So I'll start here. So governance. So this map shows the REFEDS, which is the Research and Educational Federations Group, and they're about 75 in production. So giving an example for Uganda here, which is the Renew Identity Federation. So the federation, which is here, or the infrastructure that is set up here, needs to talk with the global setup that is based in Amsterdam. And this replicates to all these others. And it's done like every 24 hours where the metadata refreshes. So that process is automated, and there are various tools online and data reports that come out. For example, if I could be having a service here in Uganda that's not working, maybe RedCap or Zoom that I federate, and it could be that my identity provider is broken, or the person I go through to federate Renew is broken. So I would see all those details. So that process of downstream and upstream, we have it fine. Then two, before an institution joins a federation, like you sign several agreements, several MOUs, the health of your infrastructure. We have other frameworks like Certify, Assurance, Cacti, and a few other frameworks that govern these federations, so that you are expected. For example, let me give an example. Let me give a clear example here. Just hold on. Let me give an example here. So these are the number of identity providers we have in Uganda. So let me pick on something like the Africa Center for Excellence in Bioinformatics. Assuming the identity provider at that center had a problem, it could actually be maybe it's hacked. What will happen is it will affect the national provider, Renew, and it can even lead to the entire country being blocked. So meaning that because one person is infected or affected, all the rest are going to be affected until when this problem is resolved. So it is very important that all institutions that are in this kind of collaboration of frameworks adhere to certain minimum standards, frameworks to ensure that such problems don't come up. I'm not sure if I answered that correctly.
Yes, you did, Lloyd. You can proceed on automation.
Okay, so I want to give an example of automation. So let me give an example. Let me look for a service here. So one of the services that Renew federates actually is EduVPN or EduROM. But let me talk about EduVPN, which is under Renew. And what basically this does, unlike the VPNs that you have, is it's a service under Renew that you log into it and you appear to connect logically to your network. And access to this service is through your institutional username or password. So what the provider does, and in this case would be Renew for the country, is they would put deploy it as a software as a service, and a script is deployed which would be specific to an institution. And the same would be true when Renew is picking it from the upstream, which would be at the Federation Center in Europe. I'm not sure if that answers your question clearly.
That gives us an idea.
Yeah, I wish the person had given me an example, then I would maybe do with that. Because
you can still
from service.
You can still put the clearer question in the chat. I think it was Ephraim. So we'll take some other questions before we. Okay, Silas, you can give your comments as then we'll take the other questions. Silas, over to you. You have your hand up. Okay. Silas, we can't hear you.
I think Brenda needs to enable him.
I did enable him, so he should be able to speak. You unmuted. Okay, as we wait for him to sort his technology, we shall take some questions. We have a question from Diana. And she says, thanks for the presentation. Kindly demystify the fact that identity is the new perimeter for organizations, given the hybrid and remote working post-COVID. Then we have a question from Andrew. How can digital ID authentication work in an offline environment? Then we have one from Brian. Does federated identity allow cross-identity and access management? If so, doesn't that create a risk of a single point of failure in terms of the attack surface?
Okay, let me start with how can digital ID authentication work in an offline environment? So that's not possible. So that's the answer to that. Then Brian, does federated identity management allow for cross identity and access management? If so, doesn't that create a risk of a single point of failure in terms of attack. So, like I said, federated identity, you use your credentials across multiple domains or organizations or enterprises. And single sign-on, it's in one domain or enterprise. So what this means is, if I'm using a federated identity, whichever service I'm consuming, that service is not managing my credentials. Look at it this way, that if you have your Visa card issued here in Uganda and maybe you're in Dubai, I'll put in the card into the ATM in Dubai or wherever it is, and the authentication is going to be done from somewhere else, not Dubai. So, so I don't see any risk of a single point of failure in terms of attack surfaces, because I mean, the person who's consuming my services is not having access to my credentials. So if I can explain it that way. Thanks for the presentation. Kindly demystify the fact that identity is the new perimeter for organizations given the hybrid and remote working post-COVID. This is not clear to me, but I would say federated identity has been here for quite some time. I gave an example of a bank transaction. I didn't want to comment how private institutions work here, but if you try to look at the core principles I mentioned for federated identity, and you look at how you pay your water bills, how you pay your school fees using Payway, you realize that a lot of these are running some kind of either private federation that is trusting those relationships between institutions. So I wouldn't think this is a new perimeter for organizations given the hybrid. What I would say is, I think this is a technology that has to be embraced among several institutions so that institutions can benefit more from it.
Okay. We have another question on how do you establish and maintain trust with customers while collecting and managing their personal data in this federated environment?
That's a good question. So first, there is nothing like collecting data, and I will explain that here. So look at this situation that I need to download this paper from a library, and even this institution doesn't know where I am. So, but I have an institutional login that allows me to access this paper. So what happens is the institution I work with has the Active Directory, which you would call like what was your username and password, which many of you here have from the various institutions you work for. And this institution will talk to the federated server that is doing this authentication so that I can download the paper. And the federated server is going to talk to the library that is having this paper. So in between that chain, the service is not consuming any credentials, but what is being done is this institution to verify that what you're trying to access, of course, a token is sent to this institution that you're actually the person before they give you this kind of access. And the example I can give here is those who have used PayPal. So when you use PayPal, you attach your Visa credentials to PayPal, and like you want to shop on eBay or Amazon. So if you want to buy an item on eBay, you don't necessarily have to put your Visa or Platinum credentials in eBay, but you can just put your PayPal credentials to purchase this item. So that means that you're getting a service from eBay or Amazon, but they have not consumed your credentials because your credentials are kept with Payway. So if I can use that analogy to explain that scenario.
So in relation to that, would it mean that maybe federated identity is the solution to problems that relate to credentials across different organizations?
Exactly.
Okay.
Because what happens is you want to use, like an institution, let me say a bank, or from the research world where I work in, you have credentials, but you have about 20 resources that you log into or that you access. For example, in my case, I do Zoom, I federate that, I log into Meraki, I log into Redcap, various libraries, various conferences. And all these, I can use my institutional ID to log into these services. Same username, same password. But how do I do it is because the institution that I work with is part of these federations. And like I said, the private space here in the country, they have their own setups. I apologize, I may not go deep into them, but I gave examples on like how you pay your water bills, how you pay electricity bills, DSTV. You see that you're the same person trying to cross multiple platforms from like one mobile money provider, then to a bank, then to a service like water, something like that.
Okay, and finally, we have, if you have one last question or two, you can share them so that they're also dealt with. But we have one from Julian who asks you a question related to what you do. So she asks, how can I access EduRoam? How can I access EduVPN?
Okay, good question. So EduRoam, EduVPN, these are services. But let me talk about EduRoam. So EduRoam is a wireless service across over, I think all countries have, it's the same SSID. Those who have been at the airport here, you've seen it. And in the country here, there are about 500 hotspots for EduRoam. And it's the same SSID wherever you go worldwide. So this is how it works. So if I have EduRoam at my institution here, it works fine. And for example, I'm at the airport in Norway. So my phone will hit EduRoam. Same SSI does here. So the infrastructure at the airport in Norway will say, oh, you're Lloyd, we don't have you here on our server. So they'll push the token to the EduRoam global operating server, which is based in Europe. And they will say, no, this person belongs to an institution which is based in Uganda. So they will push it to my institution, which is RHSP here, which will go through Renew. And the institution will validate my login credentials. The token will go back and I will get service at wherever I'm accessing EduRoam from. And that process might take about 30 seconds to 1 minute. So that is EduRoam. EduVPN still would be the same thing. You have to, either you want to put it on your phone, like on my phone, I use EduVPN, and on my laptop, I use EduVPN. Why? Because at times, you want to be on a trusted network. I need to show something here. that I didn't explain clearly. Just hold on. Okay, so here, I didn't explain this. So RENU is a member of the MANS network since October 2020. And the benefit is network is secured from routing incidents that often lead to network outages, data loss, and associated costs. So there would be scenarios like, for example, where I'm trying to access a service over the internet, but because the network that I'm using, I would be unable to. Then I would do a edu VPN, go to the RENU network, then I can access that service. And I think in country here, it could be RENU, both content provider and ISP that are recognized by this kind of institution. So it has other use cases. Post-COVID, many institutions that are running EduVPN are able to work from home as if they are on office, and they access all the resources with all the controls to the resources that they can access from home using EduVPN. It's free and secure. Did I answer that?
I think they were asking how they can access it. You explained how it works, but I'm not sure you told them how they can access it.
My apologies. So EduVPN is, like you see what the word says, EduVPN. You download it from the internet. There are several URLs how you can download from the internet, install like any other app. Now, if your institution is not a member of the RENU Identity Federation, then it may not be useful to you because access to it might be difficult. So yes, you download, install like any other app, but you need to be one of these institutions, at least in country here or another institution out of the country, so that they are able to verify your username and password. So the idea is each of the services used in the federation infrastructure is to encourage accountability on who's using what, on who is accessing what, so that you minimize on attacks and the other fraud that can happen in the network.
Okay, thank you very much. I think the questions have been responded to. I do not see any other questions in the chat. And I'll thank you for the session and for the knowledge that you've shared with us, and hand over the session back to John. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for attending, and I hope that you've learned a thing or two on identity management and access. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Alan, for moderating the session well. Thank you very much, our speaker of the day, that is Mr. Lloyd Sentongo. Members, just like I always say, sharing knowledge is can I say, people who are always willing to share knowledge are very few. And so when someone comes up to share their knowledge and experiences with us, we should really give an applause to that person. So thank you very much, Mr. Lloyd Sentongo, for sharing your knowledge and experiences. And I believe many of us have learned a thing or two about identity and access management. So thank you very much. And please, next time when we call upon you, kindly speak to us again. So I won't delay so much, given the fact that we have something bigger coming tomorrow. People need to get off on time. So one, we have our 13th annual East Africa Information Security Conference is back and is scheduled for 18th to 20th of September 2024 under the theme Interconnected Ecosystems Navigating the Challenges. So for more information, please stay tuned to our social media handles. We shall be communicating more information regarding this conference in a few days to come. We shall be communicating the venue and the other things that may be required for the conference, so including the packages and the cost. So please stay tuned to our social media handles. We shall be communicating more about the conference. Kindly start organizing the resources. That also includes preparing your leave and offs so that you can attend that conference. Then too, we're having our ISAC Kampala annual general meeting, which is going to be tomorrow, Friday, 26th April 2024 at Hotel Africana. And time will be 6:30 p.m. So please remember that this is a member-only event, and it will include key activities such as presentation of the annual report, presentation of the auditor's report, and then the election of new chapter board of directors for 2024 and 2026. So members who are ISACA Kampala chapter members are fully paid up. Please make sure that you attend this AGM. I believe so much will be communicated in that AGM. Members, kindly allow me hand over to Ms. Rita Kobsinje, our board secretary, to take us through the next session. Rita, kindly take us through. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I just want to confirm that I'm audible. Can you hear me?
Yes, you are heard and clear.
Okay, thank you very much. Once again, thank you, Anna, for moderating the session. Thank you, Lloyd, for the insightful presentation, and I believe your expertise and guidance provided valuable perspectives on navigating the complex landscape of identity and access management. And let's continue to prioritize our security and trust in our digital environment. Thank you once again, and just like John has said, please be open once again, called upon. Please be open, and let's continue seeing or looking forward to further collaborations. From what I think Lloyd has shared, I believe that trust is the foundation of all relationships, and identity is the key to unlocking trust. Careful management of access is secure not just data, but integrity of those relationships. Stephen Covey says that trust is the glue of life, and it's the most essential ingredient in effective communication. It's the foundation principle that holds all relationships. Thank you very much. Having said that, I just want to thank the members on call, the different committee members on our call. Thank you for joining us. We have Joseph Luvega, the membership director. Thank you for joining us. We have Nicholas Nkamwesiga, the academic relations director. Thank you for joining us. James Paul Kakembo, the marketing and communications committee. Thank you for being with us. We also have Mr. Brian Rutevendera, event committee, and as well as membership committee. Thank you very much for joining us. We have Sharon Itisinde. Thank you for joining us here. She leads committee and event committee. Thank you for being with us. And I believe those are the committee and directors on call. For now, if I've not mentioned, please forgive me. Probably I've not seen your name. We also have Diana Tukundani. She leads tech committee. Thank you very much, Diana, for joining us. Looking forward. And before we go to our next agenda item, I just want to emphasize that tomorrow is the D-Day. I'm coming, all of you, I'm calling upon all of you members only to come and elect your leaders who are going to take you to the next level. I just want to say that this is going to be my last webinar working like this. So please come tomorrow, elect your leaders who are going to take you to the next level. Come one, come on. Thank you very much for joining us once again. And before we invite the Vice President to give us the closing remarks, Lloyd, please we ask you to give us your parting thoughts. Lloyd, are you there?
Oh,
hello?
Sorry. My parting point. So I would like to encourage the chapter and maybe the incoming board to increase these discussions of trust and identity, because we are seeing elsewhere that this is basically where the world is going, especially with this space of the cybersecurity issues that we are having. And I don't see how any institution is going to go away from this. And we need to join hands together to do this together. Thank you.
Thank you, Lloyd, for that. St. Joseph in the Log, we can't take it for granted. Thank you for joining us as well. Thank you, Mr. Bernard Arenaite, Marketing and Communications Committee. At this point, I would like to invite our very own Vice President to come and give us our closing remarks. And of course, John Chikubia, our very own, as usual. We can't forget you. We can't thank you so much. Thank you for the wonderful work done. Mr. Morris, please take us away. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Rita, Board Secretary. I would like to join you in expressing gratitude to our speaker of the evening, Mr. Lloyd Sentongo, and the moderator, Mr. Alan Muhumuza, and our coordinator, Mr. John Chikubye. To you, our dear members of ISACA and friends of ISACA on call, thank you once again. This is but one step on the journey to promote digital trust. As you know, ISACA is about digital trust, and there was no better moment to talk about identity and access management. It's been very insightful, and if nothing else, I take away the idea and concept of federated identity management. I think it is probably something that we are encountering on a daily, but we probably have not given the thought. But even when we come from our, social, civil backgrounds of talking about federated governments, I see that the idea still maps in, and as requested by Mr. Lloyd, I indeed would think that more discussions like this should happen. Members, I will not take more of your time. Tomorrow is our AGM, and so I add my voice to that of the board secretary that please do come in person. It is a physical one. Do come and participate in the agenda as has been laid before us. Otherwise, allow me to wish everyone on call a very wonderful evening, and I look forward to seeing all of you physically tomorrow at Hotel Africana. Thank you very much. The members that have been recognized and those that have still been recognized but not in name, thank you so much for maintaining your membership. And once again, please do come tomorrow to Africana so that we can share more of these ideas and chat a way forward for the future of ISACA. Thank you very much and have a good night.
Thank you. Have a good night, Vice President. Thank you. Yeah. Have a good night. A round of applause to the secretariat team, Brenda and Tim. Thank you for putting this together.
It's a path that's easy to navigate. ISACA has the resources and tools you need to keep your career moving forward. Start your journey, and soon you will be learning new skills, becoming more experienced, building your qualification level, and increasing your earning potential. At ISACA, our globally recognized certifications, certificates, and training can help you build your digital trust with employers, while empowering you to take your career to the next level. Whether you're a student or a recent graduate in need of learning the basics, a rising professional looking for a change in your career, or a highly experienced professional wanting to build on your skill set and fill in knowledge gaps, ISACA has the credentials to meet your needs, no matter where you are in your career. We offer training and credentials in areas such as audit, risk, cybersecurity, data science, as well as emerging technologies like blockchain and AI. Plus, our wide range of award-winning certifications help professionals like you elevate your skills in auditing, risk, security, privacy, governance, and cybersecurity. All backed by flexible online and in-person training and test prep that enables you to train your way and helps ensure when it's time to make that next important career step, you're prepared. And if you manage a team, ISACA can deliver customized team training solutions that enable you to advance your enterprise while keeping your staff ahead of the curve and ready to take on the challenges of tomorrow. Because at ISACA, we work to empower IT professionals like you to take those next essential steps you need, so you can create that successful, fulfilling career path you've always envisioned.
ISACA, baby, yeah, that's the anthem. Get your hands up. Hey, hey, yeah. Listen close as I tell you all the tale. How ISACA got your boy ready to prevail. I always had a feeling that my future was bright, and thanks to ISACA, yes sir, I'm prepped for the fight. My path wasn't clear for careers, what would I do? Had a good eye for tech since a foot high. Challenges are a must, that's how my brain works. Almost stymied till I try better frameworks. What new career will I choose to make a difference? Cybercrime, risk, and audit amongst my interests. Pen testing, beyond me, it ain't a question. I need to find a mentor, distributing a lesson, or even reinforce what I already knew. Change my life for the better, they can do it for you. From system to C-Gite and IT's D-Light, now my future's got the green light. ISACA, pursuing digital trust. ISACA, where progression's a must. ISACA, realize my purpose and promise, and if I can be honest, a new era's upon us. ISACA, pursuing digital trust. ISACA, where progression's a must. ISACA, realize my purpose and promise, and if I can be honest, a new era's upon us. Scissor, gain the knowledge, use the order control, monitor the data flow, then assess what's known. Take that info and use it to improve and hone. Only the first cert, but I'm feeling right in the zone. Next up looks like C-Risk. I really want to see this. Train so I can see risk in enterprise arenas where others can't see it. Don't focus on the surface, but what's beneath it. Reaching the next certain sequence. SISM, an acronym and mechanism for a managerial application of synergism. Through program development, security, and governance. Skills hiring companies covet. Better come with it. C-Gite. Earn my nose with knowledge and the foresight. Designing, implementing, and setting the course right. This is for executives and experts, but I know ISACA can help you if you put in the work. ISACA, pursuing digital trust. ISACA, can be honest, a new era's upon us. Asaka, pursuing digital trust. Asaka, when progression's a must. Asaka, realize my purpose and promise. And if I can be honest, a new era's upon us. Yo, now that I got what I need, I'm like a new soul. No more cruise control, it's beast mode. When I started at bronze, made sure that I reviewed. Studied hard in my field, make sure that I renewed. Now I'm iller at silver, I stand and deliver. My search of arrows and my knowledge quiver. A sliver of time and I'm at gold. Take hold of the controls and there isn't any maximum. Even after platinum, I won't stop the stratagem. I made it this far, from a new member to the latest IT star, for real. I know I didn't rise alone. Props to Asaka for helping me reach the throne. Employers worldwide impressed with what I've shown, with a network of hundreds of thousands across the globe. But yo, I'll never forget Asaka for the dream. I contribute for life, forever part of the team. Asaka, pursuing digital trust. Asaka, when progression's a must. Asaka, realize my purpose and promise. And if I can be honest, a new era's upon us. Asaka, pursuing digital trust. Asaka, when progression's a must. Asaka, realize my purpose and promise. And if I can be honest, a new era's upon us. Asaka.